Okay, we're ready to roll, so, I don't know, did everybody, Dean wasn't, you weren't here for the first half?
I wasn't here for the first half either.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, okay. So half of you were and half of you weren't, so. So what we did in the first half was we, just a review, you know, we just quickly tell you what we did. What we did was we answered a lot of questions. And we gave you the questions. See, most of the time, people don't have the questions. So we gave you the questions that sellers are likely to ask. And actually, one of the things I did was I gave you a list of questions that you would give to a seller that would make you look really good if the seller asked those questions to a bunch of other realtors. Matter of fact, if you're up against somebody, if you go up against a listing presentation against somebody that knows what they're doing, you're gonna be in trouble. You're gonna be in serious trouble, especially if the seller has been armed with these kinds of questions, and the seller's asking these questions, and you're like, what? You know, you're gonna look like a fool, right? So, to avoid these things, I thought, well, you know, this is part of the session, so I think we finished on this slide, so I thought we'll just start here and just get, you know, move on, because this question right here. So what if a seller asked you, could you explain absorption rate to me? And could you explain how absorption rate in the current marketplace will affect my home? Okay, how would you answer that question? Could you answer that question? Kurt could answer that question. Could you answer that question?
Not very well.
Well, I'm gonna tell you that there isn't a seller around that'll be able to answer that question. See, so here's, you know, when you go to somebody's home and you're gonna make a presentation, you wanna look good. So everything that comes out of your mouth, you should ask questions that are gonna make you look good.
Sorry, Ray.
No, you don't have to be sorry. There's some good cinnamon buns out there. Grab some on the, you know, grab some on the
We'll
way.
grab on a break there.
Oh yeah, that's right, we got a break. We got a break. You brought a guest with you.
Yes, this is Nab.
Nav, Ray. Pleased to meet you. Are you licensed?
Not yet.
Not
Dean and I sold him a house. And they sold it.
Dean. Well, that Dean, gotcha.
Yeah, that guy. So Nab's thinking of getting involved in the business. This is be a great place to come.
Wow.
He's very sharp.
Not that sharp.
Well, he's only been here 5 years and his English is very, very good.
So Nav, you're new to the country like me.
Oh,
Like
when
most
you
of
were
us.
here.
Well, I got off the boat not too long ago, but on our boat we had really good DVDs and you know they really worked as
I
hard.
told him like you were here like 30 years ago.
I never told Bob how many years. You know, like you believe everything Bob tells you. I mean, come on, look at me. I mean, I'm pretty new to this country. I just figured I had to adapt really quickly, right?
Overnight.
Overnight, that's right. So before we jump into all these questions, one of the things you want to do to challenge yourself is like, how many questions do you actually have? Like, you should know this. You see, how many questions do you have when you go to a listing presentation? How many questions do you already have written down
What number?
that you're going to ask people? So, and my next question to go along with that would be like a little challenge to say, you know, I need to do a little homework on this real estate business. Because how many questions do I have to ask this guy? Because the more questions you have, I will say that there's a direct correlation. The more questions you have, the more chance you have of getting a listing. The more questions you have, the more chance you have of getting a listing priced right. The more questions you have, the more chance you have of getting the listing not only priced right, but listed for the right amount of time. See, I gotta tell you that there's a couple of basic things you gotta try and accomplish at a listing. One of them is price it right. The second thing is you're never gonna get paid if your sign's not on the lawn. And the easiest thing to do is to negotiate the length of the listing. You know, like you gotta get good at certain things. If you get good at negotiating the length of the listing, the pricing of the listing, you're gonna make money in real estate. The second one, negotiating the length of the listing, I would say if there's one single thing that'll get you out of the business, is if you don't get good at this. The one single thing that'll destroy you in the real estate business, if you do not get good at getting it listed until it's sold, nobody is wired to suffer defeat over and over and over again. just not wired for it. You know, like there's some things God gave us, and then but defeat and crushed, you know, being crushed over and over again. Who wants that? And if you do not get good at this skill, you're going to be in serious caca. Because you're going to lose the listing to somebody else, you know, and then when you have a listing, okay, when you have a listing and you realize the number one thing while I'm carrying this listing is it cannot expire. It cannot expire. Because everything you do to the whole time of the listing, I think I was telling Kurt this little story yesterday that I sold a home years ago. It was the most expensive home in the town I lived in. And the guy who worked in my office, he brought the buyer. So a couple of years later, he went and relisted the home. And I had no idea how it was going. I was busy at the time. And months after he listed it, he listed it for a right amount of time. Months after he listed, he called me. The seller of the home called me. I knew her. She called me up. She says, "Ray, can you come see me?" I thought it was kind of strange. I said, "What's going on?" She goes, "Well, I want to list my home." I said, "Well, you got it listed with Rick in my office." She goes, "Yeah, but the listing expires tonight." I said, "Well, I can't come tonight. I'm coming tomorrow. I'm not going to one of my buddies' list. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not going tonight. I'm going tomorrow. I'll come tomorrow and talk to you." To make a long story short, she owned a restaurant, and she had the home listed with Rick for 6 months, and Rick did a great job. He did a great job. The market was tough at that time, so it would take over 6 months to sell a home. But here's the mistake Rick made. This lady owned a restaurant, and he would, during the whole 6 months that he had the home listed, Rick's a good guy. I'm not saying he's bad. He's a good guy. But during the whole time, he never took. He had a habit of eating in another restaurant just around the corner from her, and his truck's all marked up, right? And she had to drive by that other restaurant, see Rick's truck there, morning after morning after morning. Because he met people at that restaurant. The only reason I got the listing was every Sunday after church, a bunch of us would go out for lunch. We'd go to her restaurant. So she'd see me in her restaurant, see Rick in the other person's restaurant. I make a long story short, she called me up, "I'll list the house." They want to know what's really bad. I didn't even get the paperwork processed. And one of the other guys in the office had shown it the day before. And while I was processing the paper, he brought me an offer. Literally, while I was processing the paper, I did nothing. I took the listing, processing the paper. Another guy phones me with the offer. I sell the house. I'll tell you, that can only happen so many times to you, and the feeling you get is so bad, it could take you out of the business. Yeah.
What did you price it at compared to the previous real?
The pricing was not an issue.
Not an issue.
The pricing was a non-issue. This guy Rick, just so you know, this guy Rick is one of the best realtors that I know. This guy is incredible. I trained him myself. He's actually Rick's the first guy I ever showed how to do business. I met Rick he was working at Safeway. I'd known him before, but he was working at Safeway when I met him one day. And he was a product manager, very personal guy. And I just said to him, I said, "Rick," I said, "you're wasting your time being a product manager for Safeway." I said, "With the skills you have," I actually said that this morning to the gal at the service of the restaurant, because I can tell. I said, "Rick, with your skills, your way you talk to people, I said, if you come into real estate, I'll show you what you'll make twice as much money." He doubled his Safeway income in his first year. Second year, this is back in the 90s. Second year, he made $200,000. Average price at the time was about $100,000.
For a house.
For a house. Average price $100,000. His second year in the business, Rick made $200,000. He's never made less than that since. He's never made less than that since. So he knows what he's doing, and you got to sell a lot of homes. You got to sell a lot of homes when the average price is $100,000. But I showed him how to do that. So this question, you know, like if you get these certain things right when you list a property. So let's dig into some of the questions. Before we dig into the rest of the questions, I got to tell you this: that you go to a listing presentation, it's more than a conversation. Like, this is your one chance. It's the greatest sale you're ever going to make. So you are selling yourself, your abilities, and you do this by being a great communicator. So you got to start working on your skills big time, honing your skills. The way to hone your skills is to have the right questions. Here's the other thing you're trying to accomplish at the listening presentation, in your head. In your head, you are either going to persuade the people to sign with you, or you're gonna leave those people thinking you are not worthy of the vote. We saw it in the election the last couple of days. The reason Dix lost the election was because of his inability to communicate. He would not communicate. Every time he had a chance to communicate, he wouldn't. That was his hang-up. He avoided questions. You go to a listening presentation, people aren't gonna vote for you. Like, they're not gonna say in their head, I want this guy. If you cannot deal with confrontational things, and if you can't answer all the questions of what's going on. Do you understand how absorption rate works? There is no seller that understands how absorption rate works. None. Not a single one. Therefore, you have to master this question. Now, in this session, we're not mastering this question. I can just briefly tell you. We have a session. We do a whole session on statistics where I show people how to master this question. But here's how you master this question. Simple. The market has so much inventory, and the market absorbs a portion of that inventory month by month by month. Your ability to explain that and illustrate that from the numbers anytime with any type of property. When you do that, when you get good at that, one thing, I started doing absorption rate 20-some years ago, in the early 90s. And I knew when I was doing it, that none of my competitors were doing this. I knew it. Because when I would start into my explanation, I would stop them and say, does this make sense, folks? And they would go, you know what they were saying in their head? They'd actually say it verbally, but sometimes they'd say it in their head, and then they'd say it later. Ray, nobody's ever shown us that. The moment you get a seller to say to you, Ray, nobody has shown us this, you got the listing. Like, that's all I'm after. I don't go there to, just to spend 2 hours there. I'm there to just get the listing. So I can short circuit it by just asking a bunch of good questions. This is one of them. Do you guys understand how absorption rate works? They'll say no. I don't care what they say, they're gonna say no. I said, if even they say yes, I say, really? I said, so do you know what the current absorption rate is? See, so I'm ready with like 3 other questions behind it. Somebody says, yeah, I understand how absorption rate works. I said, really? I said, do you know what the current absorption rate is for single family homes in Abbotsford? Or in Mission? Or do you know what the current absorption rate is for townhouses? That's the end of the story. They don't. Somebody might try to BS you, but they don't. Now, the toughest question, the toughest single question, I shouldn't say that. One of the very tough questions you're going to ask people when you get to their home is you're going to ask them, like, folks, why do you want to sell a home? The reason this is a tough question is, for some people, it's not a secret. But it seems like for a lot of them, it's a big secret. Is it, Bob? It's always a big secret. They never really tell me for sure. So I learned, one of the first things I learned was I had to find a number of different ways to ask this question. Because if I just come around and say, why do you guys want to sell a home? She tells me one thing, he tells me another thing. They give me some milky story, some wishy-washy explanation while we're selling the home. And this is the one I love. Well, Ray, we don't really need to sell. Oh, yeah, right. That's why you want a sign in your lawn. That's why you want 100 people walking through your living room. That's why you want to clean the house every day for me so I can bring people through. Because you don't really care if it sells. Like, bullshit your friends, not bullshit mine, but don't try to bullshit me. But that's what I know. A lot of realtors get rolled over on that one, right? Am I right? They just get rolled over on this. So you better know how to answer that question. You better be able to go, you know what, folks? Here's the deal. I'm here to help you if you need my help. I'm kind of like a doctor. If you got an ache, I can maybe help you. But if you don't tell me, if you tell me, Doc, everything's good. I'm good to go. I'm all right. I say, well, great. You look good to me too. you go home and die of cancer, and the doctor could have maybe helped you. So you be careful of this. This is a tough question. So when you've got to be perceptive. So when you ask this question, and maybe a number of different ways, and they give you the wrong answer, you got to know that they're covering something up, or they're not getting right right into it. Okay, see, these are the tough questions. I don't know which one's tougher than the other. But there isn't a seller in the country that has a clue how market value is determined. Okay, you want to know how ignorance can descend on people? It just depends on your perspective. It's like a cloud, it can just come down on you. So, have you talked about, if you've had a listing, been in the business for a while, you haven't had a listing, and you've had an agent representing a buyer call you and ask you about the property. I had one this morning, right, just a few minutes ago. He's going, Ray, the assessor says that the property's worth this. This guy's a realtor. And I'm going, what's your point? Now, I'm ready to think, I'm thinking this guy wants to, it's early in the morning, but he wants to pick a fight with me. To me, that's fighting talk. You see, if a realtor says to me, Ray, the assessor says the property's worth this. Is that how you're going to want to open the negotiations? Seriously. There isn't a seller that understands how we arrive at market value. Not one. Am I right? They haven't got a clue. So if they haven't got a clue how we arrive at market value, then you have to have like a way of answering this question for them. So what would you do? How would you answer the question? How would you answer a question about market value? What's market value determined by?
Price buyers are willing to pay. Comparable sales.
Comparable sales, which is what buyers are currently paying for this property.
And it defines the average price.
What people are willing to pay, and you have documented evidence of this, is how we come up with market value. But every person on the planet thinks that market value has something to do with the shingles they put on the house, or the money they spent on the property. What you spent on the property, and the nice carpet you put on the property, or the nice trees you planted, have nothing to do with market value. That's what you wanted to do. Market value is determined by something outside of you. Now, this is a tough thing to do, and so you have to, the best way to do this is to show them, not tell them. Don't try telling, because your telling is too confrontational. Telling is a no, you're in a battle, you know, you're in a head-to-head with this person. You got to try and persuade them by showing them. But by just starting off, ask them, do you know how we arrive at market value? And then just listen to what they got to say. They haven't got a clue. Matter of fact, they actually think many different things. One of the things that sellers will think is that market value has something to do with what other people are asking for their property. Now, don't be mad at the poor sellers for thinking that. That's what most of the realtors think. Have you met realtors that think that? I've been behind it. They came to the presentation and they showed the seller a bunch of stuff that was listed. And they said, look at what's listed, and it's like your property, so we could list yours for the same thing. Absolutely. Other people are asking over what do the sales have to do with anything? The sales have everything to do with everything, because there's another little thought to keep in mind, and this is another thing to try and explain to people. The real estate market is never made by sellers. Seldom. I would say never. That's a good question, way to ask it. The real estate market is never made by sellers. Who's it made by?
Buyers.
The moment if the buyers stop buying, we don't have a real estate market. For some reason, if we scare everybody off and tell them we're going to put a socialist in charge of the province or something like that, the doors are shut. There's nobody coming here anymore. Do you know how many developers were waiting last night for the election? I know this.
I know developers that already moved because they predicted they were gonna be in.
There was tons of developers just waiting to see what would happen last night. Because if the NDP got in, they're gonna go to Alberta. Go spend their money in Alberta. Where would the jobs go? To Alberta. Do the socialists care? No. You know why the socialists don't care? We got a good credit rating in BC. And one of the seeds is, I said, folks, if you go through the answer, do you know how buyers determine value? They've done the they've done all these things. Matter of fact, let me tell you, these guys have not only determined what the value of properties are, they already know how much they can buy. Like they know the purchase price that they can have. Yeah, so every buyer that comes through here, they already know the purchase price. So as an example, let's just say that your home was worth $495. The buyers that would pay $495 for your home, if the home's listed at $525, they're never going to see the home. They'll strike it off their list. They'll tell the realtor, I don't want to look at that home. Matter of fact, the home's listed at $510. They might not look at your home. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you that if your home is worth $495 and we price it over $5, there's a whole bunch of people that won't see the home. And for $5,000, you will lose some of the buyers that could have come and bought your home. That's how much these guys know.
No, it's all, yes.
I wasn't sure if it was who's it was. I wasn't.
No.
Just want to make sure it's not me.
Because
So that's a good. Does that make sense when you raise that question to dig into that? Because it'll save you some. Does that make any sense? It'll save you a lot of time when you go to price the home. When you go to actually get right down to the pricing. Just thought I'd throw that one at you. Okay, here we go. What do we got? You get tough questions. Okay, let's take a couple of seconds and do this here. So, do you have a system in place for yourself to answer questions? Would you like a system so that you can funnel every question? Okay. So here's the system. Here's the system. The system is, when people throw a question at you, repeat the question back. Say, Bob, now, role play with me, Bob. Ask me a question.
Is that the lowest price they're gonna go?
So, Bob, let me see if I've got this clear. Are you asking me if what we just discussed is the lowest price you think I think the seller will take? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't matter what question he asks me. I'm just going to repeat it back and make sure he knows that I heard the question. Okay? If you just get this into a systematic way of dealing with people, they will love it. And it'll make it easier for you to come out on top. So learn how to acknowledge the question, rephrase or clarify it. See, Bob, that's a great question. Now let me see if I heard what you said. Because there's times I haven't heard what the guy said. Matt, have you heard it every single time right? No. You know why? Because he's human. He might have been thinking about something else, or he might have been distracted and the guy asked the question and he didn't quite get it. We're all capable of that. So that's a good question, Matt. So what I heard you say, let me see if I got it right. Or sometimes I just say to them, Bob, could you say that again? Could you just say that again? See? So I might acknowledge by saying, then I rephrase it for clarification. And now I ask a question. The moment you get to this part of the system, you are now going to separate yourself from all the amateurs in the business. And if you're still an amateur, this is how you tell. Oh shoot, I'm still an amateur. I'm still a novice. The moment you're so anxious to tell people the answer, you're an amateur. You're going to screw up. It's going to cost you. You're not going to win.
It's 11 o'clock.
Oh, well, that's good. It doesn't tell me 11:30. 11. So, can somebody give me tell me? Well, give me a. Who wants to work with me?
Like an open question? Is
Yeah.
that what you mean?
Yeah.
Would that be an open question? After you rephrase?
So let's start with a question. Somebody give us a question.
How much is your commission?
How much is my? So Matt, let me see if I heard you right. You're concerned about what it's going to cost in commissions to get the home sold.
Yeah.
Great. So Matt, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
See,
Just turn it back.
acknowledge, rephrase it, and now I say, so Matt, can I ask you a question? Are you familiar with how commissions work all across Canada?
No.
Okay. See, now that's a closed answer. See, yeah, you see, but I wanted a closed answer. So now I go, so Matt, would you like to know?
Sure, Ray.
See, so I'm asking, would you like to know how commissions work? So now, but I've asked him, I still haven't got to an open question. I'm asking him questions, but I'm not asking him an open question. I'm purposely doing that. So, somebody ask him an open question.
Is, commission something you're concerned about? I guess that's.
Let me help you here. I'm purposely doing this because an open question cannot be answered with a yes or no.
Do you want to sell your home?
No, we're on this question. We're on this question. We've acknowledged the question, we've rephrased the question, now we're responding with an open question, but we haven't responded to this guy's question with an open question yet.
Why is it that you are, why is the right word, but why, what is it about the commission that you're concerned about?
See, now that's an open question. It's close to an open question. So Matt, when I explain, it's not an easy question to answer with an open question. It's a tough question. So you know, just so you know, that is a tough question to come back with an open.
Mm-hmm.
Because an open-ended question starts with how, when, why, where. Okay.
Why, when, how?
So if I was gonna answer that question with an open question, I would probably go, so Matt, when I answer that question about, Matt, when I answer that question about commissions, would that be, it's a tough question. I'm having trouble with it. I'm having trouble coming up with an open question. But an open question has to be how, when, why, what, where. So Matt, where have you discussed commissions? Where have you discussed commissions before?
Well, where would you rather live, Ontario or here, basically?
Well, see, that's right. That would be good. So Matt, where would you rather be living today? In BC or in Ontario? We said, I'm living in BC. I said, well, that's a great place to be living for commissions, because we're in a low commission zone. See, now, you know, but every question that you have to deal with, if you train yourself, and some of them are going to be tough. Like this was a tough one. But those are the words you got to start with. If you don't start with who, what, when, why, where, and how, if you do not start with those words, you're going to have a question that can be answered with a yes or no.
I got one.
Okay?
What is it about the amount of the commission that concerns you?
Perfect. Or another variation of that. So another variation of the same question is, Matt, what about the commission is, do you want to know? What about commissions exactly did you want to know? And then he can tell me what he's, you know, now he's got, but chances are, he's only got one question. Chances are, he's not got two. And when he comes back with that question, now I can tell him a little bit about commissions, which would be always general to specific. That's a whole different thing about how to, okay, actually we might have that here. I don't know if we have that in our slides. Yeah, there we go. How, when, why, what. Okay. How, where, why, when, what. And actually now these are the questions that I really want to get to. Because if you master these questions, the next 20 questions that you're going to ask the seller is, will you price the home between wholesale and retail? Do you actually ask that question? Well, would you ask?
I haven't asked that one.
No.
In other ways, I guess.
Let me hear everybody say, will you price this home between wholesale and retail?
What do you price
These
the sales
prices
between wholesale and retail?
Wholesale retail.
Okay, let me help you. Let me help you with this. When I get to these questions, I have to set it up. You see, one of the communication skills you have to develop is before you ask certain questions, you have to set it up. You have to set up the environment to ask the question. Right? This is a communication skill. So what I do to ask this series of questions, I have 20 questions here. And if you master these questions, you'll be deadly at a listing presentation. The setup goes like this. I say, folks, here's the deal. I said, I'd like to do an analysis of your home to determine how saleable it is. Does that make sense, Bob? So I can do this analysis to show you how saleable your home is. But in order for me to do this, I need to ask you a series of questions and grade you on your answers. You're looking for a script, Dean? This is a script right here. The setup is a great script. So folks, would you like to know how your home rates how saleable it is? And they go, yeah, they all want to know, no matter how you say it. So I say, in order for me to grade your home or to give it a rating, I have to ask you a series of questions, about 20 questions, and I will grade you on each question. Now, would you like to pass with flying colors and the home become real saleable? They go, yeah. I said, well, I need you to say yes to every question. It's real easy. I said, I'm going to ask you about 20 questions, and I need you to say yes to every one of them. I said, now some of them will be hard to answer, yes. But that's the secret. If you want your home to be 100% saleable, I need you to say yes to every question. So then I go, okay, you ready for the first question? They go, good, we're ready. I said, will you price your home between wholesale and retail? And now, part of answering that question, like we do this in the listing presentation, right? So part of answering that question is you have to be good now at explaining that pricing triangle. Everybody know how to do the price? You know how to do the pricing triangle? You know how to do the pricing triangle? You know how to do it? Maybe. Bob, you know how to do it, right? Okay. So you got to know how to do this pricing triangle to explain that question, price between wholesale and retail. Next question. Will you see now, remember I told you earlier on in the previous slide when we were talking about will you pay above market value? If you get a good, or do you think a buyer will pay above market value? It leads to this question. It leads to this question. So can we use an odd price on your home? Is the question. Can we use an odd price on your home? And they may not understand that question, right? So then you give them I like to give them the banana story. As if you go to Save on Foods, they don't have bananas for $2 a pound. It's always 99 cents a pound or $1.99 a pound. So you might want to help them understand that. But if you help them to understand this concept, when you get to the point where the home's worth $4.95 and they want to price it at $5.10, you can get the price at $4.99. $4.99 is a better price than $5.25, isn't it? And if you can learn that fine difference between pricing it at $4.99 as opposed to $5.10, using the question of the odd sale price, you're going to sell the property quicker. Like the property's going to sell for the same price no matter what. If the property's only worth $4.95, do not go over $500. If the property's only worth $4.25, do not go into the 430s. See, whatever the market value is, if you understand odd price, you have to understand. That's how Jimmy Patterson became as rich as he is. Like, will people pay 80 cents a pound for banana, 80 cents a piece for bananas? Probably. But he's going to sell way more bananas at 79 cents. See, because that 1 cent or the 1,000 or the 100 reduces it in the minds of the buyer by thousands more. Wow. Okay. This is a great question. So folks, I just need to know, behind the skin of your forehead, is there a price that you would take for this home that's less than what you're asking? That's how you ask that question. And if they say yes, or if they say, let's say you're dealing with the people, because this is what a lot of people deal with. Well, Ray, can we try this price? Yeah, we can try this price. For how long? Every time somebody says, can we try this price, you go, for how long? Immediately. Can we try it for this price? Sure. It's your house, we can try it for this price. For how long? As long as you're going to follow one question with another. Boom, it's like systematic. We're gonna try it for, can we try it for that, can we try 5 1/4? Yeah, for how long? I never think about it, yeah, for how long? And then shut up. And if they say a week or 2 or 3, then you take out a form that we have and fill in the price, the date, and the price change, and slide it over to them with a pen. Just slip it over in front of them. I dare you. You wanna take control of the listing presentation? You do that one thing right there. You wanna take it away from them and take control and be a pro? You say, for how long do you wanna try that for? I don't care how long it takes to get the answer. I'll have 2 cups of coffee if it takes that long. Just so you know. When I say to somebody, how long is it gonna take? How long do you wanna try that price? Just so you know. That could be an hour from the time I ask that question to the time I get an answer. It's been that way for me. It's certain situations. It's been that long. Can you follow up? You're tracking with me? I say, how long do you want to try to that price? I might get that answer in 5 minutes. I might get that answer in 60 minutes, but I'm not going past that question. Because if I go past that question, I'm going to screw up. This is a system. And when they finally say the time, I take the, when I ask the question, I pull the form out and I start filling it in. For showmanship. It's showmanship. I fill the form, it's all showmanship. So, are we good on that one? That's a good question. Okay, the question of appraisal. The only reason you're asking this question on appraisal is you're asking the question of appraisal because the seller does not understand market value. So you're just trying to help them understand that there is a way of determining market value, objectively. So would you pre-order an appraisal? Like, okay, so Mr. Seller, you think the house is worth this much or the property's worth, would you pay for an appraisal and have it sitting on the table to prove the values of the buyers that come through? That's the question. The question, would you be prepared to pay, have you ever asked that question, though?
No, I haven't.
You better ask this question. Dean, I bet you haven't asked this question.
No.
Would you be prepared to pay, here's the wording, would you be prepared to pay for an appraisal and have it sitting right on the table to prove your price? You know why this is a great question?
Because no one will do it.
Because I have asked this question thousands of times, and I've only had maybe 1 or 2 people say yes. This will knock the wind right out of their sails. Would you be prepared to pay for an appraisal and have it sitting right on the table to prove your value of your home? Nobody wants to do that. So then, I'm gonna get a yes on this question. Just so you know, I'm gonna get a yes. I might have got a no on the first one, but the next 3 I'm getting yeses on, including the appraisal question. So it just depends how I ask the question. So the way I get a yes on it, I say, Bob, if push comes to shove, you understand that I cannot sell this home above market value, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so push comes to shove, and you have to pay for an appraisal to prove the value of the home. Somebody's prepared to pay it, you have to pay for the appraisal. Would you pay for the appraisal? Bob, let me help you with this. Let me reword this question for you. All I'm saying to you is this, is that there isn't a buyer on the planet. Now, you're suggesting that there is a buyer on the planet somewhere that will pay more than market value. I'm not saying there isn't, but what I am saying, there isn't a buyer on the planet that would pay more than market value, that pays for an appraisal, and his bank says, we can't use that appraisal, because it didn't come out high enough. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna have to pay for the appraisal. Like, there isn't a buyer that's gonna pay for an appraisal that he cannot use to get his financing. Is that clear? So you gotta help people understand that, because they don't get it, they don't know that. So you gotta help them get the fact that, yeah, would you pay for an appraisal? Yes. This is a tough question. And we won't go into all the ins and outs of the question, but this is the question. You gotta ask a commission question. Are you prepared to pay more commission than anybody else? That's all you're on. And most people are gonna go what? What's their answer?
No.
The majority of people are not gonna say no. There'll be some people who'll say no, but the majority of people will eventually say, what's the word?
Why?
Why? The majority of people will not say no, they'll say why. So now you have the only opportunity to explain how commissions work. And if you leave a listing presentation without adequately explaining how commissions work, you're not gonna be able to negotiate the highest possible commission. So commission is not something to be avoided, it's something to bring it right out in the open and then explain. And the way the explanation goes, it goes quickly like this. It goes that we are in the lowest commission zone in the country, and we are, in the continent. And the highest commissions are outside of British Columbia and Alberta. Alberta and British Columbia are similar, and from Saskatchewan all the way east, all through the United States, the commissions are higher. But most people don't know that. So you might have to explain that to them. And they don't have split commissions and discounted commissions in other parts of Canada and the United States. It's like 6% straight across. 5 or 6% straight across. And when you explain that to them, they go, oh. And that's when you might want to explain to them that we only charge full commission on the first 100,000 and we discount the rest and whatever you want to discount it to. I never discount it for less than half. If I discount it. If I go to a home that's expired, there's very little discounting. They're paying. If I go to some property that somebody else had trouble selling, I'm charging way more commission than anybody else charge. Just so you know. I have a property in Hope for $775,000. I listed it at 7% straight across. Straight across.
That's good.
I'm paying the other agent something like 2 or 3% straight across. There's way more commission. Like I've actually increased the selling commission to the other agent by 50%. Commissions are a big deal. When you go to expired listings, I listed a property at the corner of 176 and the Fraser and the Highway 1. There's a little store there. I did 2 things when I went there, and the other agent is one of the top agents in Surrey. This guy's like one of the best guys. I went there and did 2 things, asking these questions. I got him to listen to market value. The guy says, well, Roy, don't we need room to negotiate? I said, I know. I said, I would rather bring you offers week in, week out that you turn down than not bring you offers. What would you rather me do? Would you rather be phoning me every week and asking me what's going on, or you want me to phone me every week and say, Ray, that offer's too low? Which scenario do you want? I need no room to negotiate. Market value is the list price. So when I convinced them of that, boom. Then when all the agents phone, and see, I had an appraisal, it was commercial property, you had a current appraisal. All the agents phoned me up. I said, I got an appraisal right here. You want a copy? Yeah. And then that was the end of the discussion on price. Second thing I did, I increased the commission by double. The commission on that property, it was about 40,000. I charged him 80,000. Double the commission. When you go to an expired, you see, we're in a business where you live. This is not a business for weak people. This is a business where you live by your wits. You have to learn how to make judgment calls, and you got to make as much as you can make whenever you can do it. Because it's not gonna go your way every time. So you just have to make these calls. It's like this is the ultimate contracting type of business. Amen. See, that's why Matt likes this business. You go to a job and you look at it, and if you're a contractor, I used to build houses and do all kinds of things. I'd look at some jobs, and if I knew there was some stuff here that demanded expertise that I had, we would charge you more for this job. Does that make sense, Bob? That's free enterprise. The socialists would not like this. So if you don't like this, you better go to a socialist. You better go to a socialist environment. This is a free enterprise environment, and the more skill you have and the better communicator you are, the more you're going to make in real estate. So when you pay above market commissions, Now, let me just say the downside to asking this question. The downside to asking this question, I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna tell you that when I perfected this in 1996. And in 1996, I made several goals for the year. One of my major goals was that year. I had perfected many parts of the business, but I got to this part and I said, this year, I'm going to have, my listings are gonna pay more to other agents than anybody else, period, across the board. So that year, every time I listed a property, the commissions I paid to the other agents was way more than everybody else. So I got good at asking the question, got the sellers to understand the benefit of paying more commission. And my listings just continually had more, if you had this house to sell or my listing, the agents would sell my listing. Because it paid more. Sometimes only $500 more. Sometimes $1,000 more. I went behind agents that offered to discount the commission. I got the listing at above market commission. I had the agents who discounted it say to me, Ray, how did you convince the seller to pay more? I said, I don't know, but they did. And the same agent who was discounting the commission came and sold the property. I had that many times. They'd come back, because they'd been there, done the presentation, they wanted the listing. I had so many of them say, one guy said to me, he says, Ray, he says, I was mad at you because you got the listing. I had this one guy, he says, Ray, I was mad at you because you took that listing. He says, then we did it. He says, I had the buyer for it. I knew I did. So he brought the buyer, he sold it. He said, now I got the deal sheet out. He said, I couldn't believe it. He said, I just about made as much representing the buyer as I would have made if I'd have done both sides. So you see, when you get good at asking that question, the only downside to it, is all you get is full commission. And what full commission is, in my books, is more than what most people get. It's about 37% more than what most people get around here. What I call full commission. It's 37% more than what most agents get that work for no-name companies. Now here's the other little secret. You can't do that working for a no-name company. Because if the brand you represent has no value, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. Price is an issue in the absence of value. So when value's on the table, price is off the table. Okay, this is a question that sellers don't hear when you take something on trade. It's a great question. See, because you see, at the end of my 20 questions, I'm getting the listing. I gotta tell you that I've asked these 20 questions over 15 or 1,800 times, and 97% of the time I got the listing. So I'm telling you, use this question. Will you take something on trade? And when they understand you will do anything to sell their property, including, you think it's easy to take a boat and a trailer and a truck on trade in selling house? You think that's easy? Nobody's gonna ask that question, because it's not easy. It's an absolute pain. Am I right?
Yes.
It is an absolute pain. I don't wanna do it. I don't wanna take skidoos and four-wheelers and boats and trailers, but I will. And after I ask the question and I have to explain how it all works, that it all has to be at market value, and it has to be something you want or the dollar equivalent. But when they know I'm willing to do that, I'm just removing obstacles out of the way of people doing the deal. I'm the better agent for doing it. So ask the question about trades. That's a yes, by the way. The only no's that I could have got so far is price between wholesale and retail and paying above market commission. And the only downside to paying above market commission is they're paying full commission. There's the only two no's I could have got so far. Everything else is a yes. Can I word this place? Can I word the advertising to seller? The other thing about wording, the other reason about asking this question is because if the seller is a writer or a teacher, if they're a school teacher, watch out. Just so you know what's in the back of my head, you have to know who you're going up against. If I'm going up against people of certain racial, genetic background, I have to know what I'm up against. If I go against Koreans or Indians or Chinese, Germans, I gotta know what I'm doing. All these people have different ways of doing things. You know, you go to a listing presentation and the guy's Dutch and he lived during the war and he stood next to a ditch with his hands up and defied the Germans. It's gonna be tough sledding for me. You know what I'm saying? It is gonna be tough sledding, you gotta know these things. Some guy that defies some foreign country army or resisted all the corruption that went on in his own country and made it over here, and now I'm trying to list his home, and I'm gonna push this guy over, it's not gonna happen. So that's why I gotta soften him up with all these things. And the thing about school teachers, by the way, you always make school teachers pay more. That's how you just gotta get that in your head. School teachers and preachers pay more. I'm serious. I'm serious. You cannot go to those people without being this sharp. Because they'll outsmart you, be careful. And if they can write better than you, for crying out loud, get that on the table and get them right, let them do all the writing of the ads and everything. You know, you gotta ask this question. That's a yes, no matter what, that's a yes. Okay. This is how you get all of their questions on the table about what is wrong with the property. So you ask the wife this question: is there a list of things that he was supposed to do that he didn't get done yet? So you really gotta get his question out. Because if there's repair work that needs to be done on the listing, I've seen this so many times where we list the property, we have the realtors open, and it's just like a mess. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. Just get it on the table. How long is it gonna take you to get this place ready? Do you need help? You better have you cannot be a listing agent and not have a list of painters, renovators, landscapers, all these people ready to help you. Fence repairers, gutter cleaners, house washers. Seller agrees to redecorate. Are you gonna do it on your own or you need some help? It's a yes, by the way. Is there any extras? We're coming up the break. Is there any extras? Well, Ray, do you think I should leave the washer and dryer? The answer is?
Yes.
I would.
If I would, or
I would.
if I was you, I would.
I would. Anytime somebody says to you, Ray, should I leave this? Should I leave that? 2 words, I would. I'd leave everything. I'd leave as much as I can, because the more extras there are, the more saleable places. Can we have easy access? See, like some of these questions, the only 2 questions that were negotiable was the wholesale and retail and the commission question. Those are the only two questions where you could have got a no. Every question here, you have to persuade people. Easy access. If you take, is anybody in the room taking a listing where there was no easy access yet? Have you? No.
Yes.
Actually,
Yes.
Yeah. No, you gotta work this up. You gotta beat them. Beat them with a stick. They got dogs. They got, they got problems. They got lockbox issues. I don't care what it is. You gotta make it so it's easy access. I have never met a realtor with a buyer that has patience. It's just not part of the game. Matter of fact, you wanna know how bad I am? If you don't give me easy access to your listing, I'll sell something else. I don't give a rip about you or your seller. When I have the buyer, I'm just saying, this is how realtors think. When realtors have a buyer, they don't care about you or your seller's problem. Don't bother trying to explain it. Just get them in the listing. When they want to get in there, just figure out a way how to have easy access and explain that to your people. That's a yes. Now, home inspections will kill a lot of sales. So my question to my seller is, if push comes to shove, will you pay for the home inspection? Let me just tell you, on home inspections, if I went to sell my own home, I've only had to sell my own home once since I've been in real estate. I don't move around a lot since I got into real estate, but the first thing I'm gonna do is go get a home inspection. I just go, if we decide we're moving, first thing I do is phone a home inspector up. I say, come and inspect my home. It's gonna cost me what? What's it cost? $500? And I'm gonna leave the home inspection right there on the table. However, I'm also wanting the home inspection to come because I live in the house, but I may not know that something went wrong. And I don't want that to come up at the time that I have an offer. So I ask this question, I say, push comes to shove, would you pay for a home inspection? Have you thought about having a home inspection? I'm gonna get a yes on this. So push comes to shove, would you pay for the home inspection to make the deal work? I'm gonna get them to say yes on that. But now, after I get them to say yes, I say, don't you think it's a good idea to get a home inspection? I said, because if there's any issues raised in the home inspection, you're gonna have to fix them anyway. So whether or not you actually get them to do the home inspection, get them to say yes, they pay for it. That's the main thing. And, can I put my sign up? Yes. I've only, you know, this is a really easy question, but I'll tell you what, I've had 2 or 3 listings, you know, in my lifetime where they did not want a sign. No way, no how, no shape, and I'm talking residential. I'm talking just residential, because there's several times I list commercial, I list businesses. When I list a business, there is no sign. I just listed a business, by the way. Just listed a business, long ways from here. This is a tough question, but I get them to commit. Will you keep this home in showable condition? And what percentage of sellers do you think know what sort of showable condition is? Like when you guys go on tour, how many homes, on every tour day, what percentage of the homes are showable?
Tours are usually pretty good, they're pretty showable, I'd say probably like 80%
In our office.
in our office.
Okay, but when you're out showing homes from all over the place, what percentage are showable?
Oh, maybe 30%.
See? And the reason is because nobody's explained to these people. They don't sell stuff every day. Like Kurt happened to be with me yesterday, we were talking to a gal that's trying to put a deal together herself. And I said to her, I said, have you ever done a deal like this before? She goes, no. And I said, well, be careful you don't screw it up. And she said, what do you mean? And I wouldn't answer.
She came back and tried to get out of me later.
She didn't get it. It's like went right over her head. She's trying to sell her own business. And I just asked her, I said, you ever done something like this before? She goes, no. I said, well, you better be careful you don't screw it up. Well, what do I mean? What do you mean, Rick? I didn't want to tell her anymore because I'm not if she wants me to do it for her, I'll do it, but for a fee. She's trying to save the fee and try to pick my brain on how to do it. It's not gonna happen. I just said, just be careful you don't screw it up. Because if she does screw it up, those people, she's lost those people. They'll never come back and they maybe could do the deal. But she thinks she can do it on her own. Fill your boots. Showable conditions, you can help people with that. This isn't a biggie, but you better help people through it at the time you take the listing. Folks, I need you to understand that you cannot have a contingency on the sale. The buyer is gonna come with contingencies. If you have any issues, now's the time to tell me. But we cannot accept an offer. I'm not gonna sell your home, have a buyer come and write an offer, and then you tell me you want me to put a contingency on the sale for you. And what's the only contingency typically that I'm gonna have to deal with here? Do you know what it is?
Finding a home.
Thank you. That is it. The one fear that you're only one, is I've never come across another one. Well, Ray, what's gonna happen if we commit to selling our home and we haven't found something else? I said, it's my job. I said, I will, day and night, I'll work for you. Day and night, the moment we have that sale accepted. I said, if you need me to, I said, we know, it's not like a mystery. Would you like to know what's available out there right now? Here's all the stuff that's available. Just get it out of their head unless they're looking for something so unique. That's rare. But do not be a listing agent that accepts offers and then puts contingencies on it. If people weren't sure you were an idiot, all doubt will be gone there. Number one. Number two, if you're dealing with people like me or a lot of other agents around, they'll never come back to sell anything you got listed. If you want to make yourself look like a complete fool, you put a seller's contingency on an offer that the realtor brings you. Don't do that. That is bad, bad, bad. Ask them if they'll take financing. They'll do financing. Will you hold the financing on the property? So this is one they're allowed to say no. And if they're allowed to say no on that, then competitive interest rates on the mortgage, you could say that it's a no. And low down payment would also be part of that, so that would be a no. And the last one is a really good question, but you just gotta get good at asking that question every time. Is this home CMHC insurable? And the answer should be yes. The home is CMHC insurable, but when you explain what CMHC insurability is, that'll help get people, that'll get the wind out of their sails. So just so you know, when you go to a listing presentation, it's a heavy-duty negotiation, and it's much like getting into a ring with Muhammad Ali. Or what's that guy from Montreal called? Jid. GSP. Like, you get in the ring with that guy, he's gonna beat you. He's over-prepared. So when you are over-prepared, you get in, you go to a listing presentation. I knew that, but once I prepared myself in the early days, and after I'd done many, you know, I did over 100 a year presentations, for many years, over 100 a year. So it's like I'm doing 3, 4, 5 a day. Nobody's got a chance against me. I'm just asking these questions, you know, answering any of their objections, signing the listing at the right price, the right amount of commission for the right amount of time, putting it into the system. And I'm also selling 30% of them. So you get all that right, you immediately are gonna increase your double end ratio. The average agent in Canada double ends less than 7% of their listings. I used to do 32%. So about a third of what I listed, I sold myself. Used to piss everybody off.
Is
Because
that just because you had such a high volume of listings, or so you had that?
well,
many-
that would occur, that would make it happen, but the other thing that would happen is what I did was I took all my buyer calls and I sorted them into a database. So, all the people that, you know, like somebody came to me this morning and said, Ray, somebody came to me this morning in the office meeting, said, do you have a strip mall for sale? And the reason is he talked to a buyer for a strip mall. So when I talk to somebody that, they go right in my database, strip mall. So if I go list a strip mall, I put strip mall into the database, brings me up a list of buyers. Use fields for all the things that people are asking you for that are buyers. You list something, you put it in, you pull a list up, there's your first call list. Of course, what would happen is that, you know, like things like houses on acreages. Houses on acreages, like how many, you remember, sometimes you remember, right? There's certain guys that want a house on an acre, so I go list a house on an acre, I phone, right away I start phoning the guys up. Once the listing's signed and I'm driving back away from that place, I've literally phoned guys, picked them up and taken them back to the listing, done the paperwork, sold it, gone back to the seller, presented the offer, turned the listing in, and wrote the sale on the board the same day. And especially when I list certain things that I know other people it's gonna be a hot item, I'm gonna sell it myself if I can. Before any other agents get it, I'm gonna sell it myself. See that you build this kind of momentum up that you get going. Make sense? Easiest way to make money is sell your own listings. The second easiest way to make money is to provide inventory for the rest of the agents. And if your listings pay more than everybody else's, they're priced better than everybody else's, the rest of the agents will be fighting over them. You become the hero. You become the guys in my office, they look at if I headed to the board to write a listing on it, they're over there taking notes. Ray, when can I get in? What's the answer? It's got a lockbox on it. I'll make a phone call. When would you like to go? Okay, let's know how the numbers work. Who knows how the numbers work? Nobody. They don't know how the numbers work. Most of you in the room don't know how the numbers work. There's a young guy that's supposed to be here. He's new in our office. I'm gonna chew him up without being here. Young and
I'm not
dirty.
sure what you mean by numbers.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad you said that. This is your downfall.
I mean,
Nobody knows the numbers.
Like required down
Right.
payment percentage or?
All the stuff, all of it. Depends on how wide you want to start. So how many people know their financial independence number? They don't. Nobody knows what that means. How many people understand? How many people understand that it's easier to dump a bucket of sand out than it is to take a little, you know, those glass spoons that the ladies use for dipping onions and stuff out, those little fragile little spoons for condiments. You know, a condiment spoon? Try taking a condiment spoon and scooping sand up with it and filling that bucket up. You'll be there all day, or you'll break the spoon. But to dump it out, everybody knows how to do that. Money's the same way. Getting money is very, very hard. Spending money is very easy. Do you know how the numbers work? So what does that mean, Ray? So, listen, the reason I asked that question up there is because I don't have to ask any other question. That's the whole meeting right there. This is my buyer interview. What do you guys wanna buy? And they tell me. I said, great. I said, do you know how all the numbers work for you? What do you mean, Ray? I said, well, how much where's your down payment? How much is it? Can I get a copy? I need to know that you have that money. Like you cannot bullshit me. You cannot lie to me. I need to know exactly where the money is. Well, Ray, I have $50,000. Where is it? It's in which, then I need a readout. I need to get a printout. Well, can you tell me that when we leave here today, you'll get me a printout so I have this for the file? Well, Ray, I actually don't have the money. Mom and Dad are giving me money. That's what I need to know. So now I need a letter from Mom and Dad. Well, why do you need that, Ray? Because we cannot go very far without this. Unless you have all the money. Solving the money problem is part of the biggest problem you're gonna have here. Like, I can find you the house this afternoon. Folks, let me tell you something. Finding a house is not a problem for Ray. Matter of fact, if I ask you enough questions about this house, if I drill this question down, do you know what you wanna buy? Like, that's one question that leads to a whole bunch of other questions. I asked, do you really know what you wanna buy? Do you know the neighborhood you wanna buy in? Do you know what is flexible and what is inflexible? What are must-haves and what are not? Do you really know what you want to buy? And I keep asking it. I draw this house out. I said, tell me what this house looks like. Tell me what the neighborhood looks like. The reason I have got good at asking this question, because I don't want to show 100 homes. 5 is I don't want to show more than 5. After 5, I lose patience. God didn't give me a lot of patience. I'm screwed up, very impatient. So I need to find out exactly what you want, and then I can find it. Don't make this hard for me, because I'm not that smart. I mean, look at me, I'm not even from this country, isn't that? It's a poor Indian guy trying to make his way in Canada. I mean, don't confuse me, I mean,
Yeah.
Tell me what you want. Tell me the neighborhood you want. Don't tell me afterwards, oh, Ray, we wanted to live on the highway. Right on the highway, I want to see Highway 1. No, tell me everything. I want to hear the noise of the highway. Okay, great, I can take up that gravel pit over there. They got building a house in that gravel pit. Up, Sumas Way. See, because when you tell me what you want, what I'm doing is I'm finding what you want, either in my inventory or the office inventory. Either my inventory or the office inventory. Because if I sell one of my listings, that's like shooting the gun twice. Boom, boom, double barrel, right? If I sell an office listing, it's the same kind of thing. I showed Kurt the other day. See, he didn't believe me when he first started. I don't know. I said, Kurt, you sell somebody's listing in the office, and you will create a sale for yourself down the road. So he sells one of Andrew's listings. Now he's got Andrew waking up at night thinking about how he can sell one of his listings.
Except, I will say one thing, what I found with buyers, they don't know what they want. They think they know what they want.
So
And
now-
it takes
So
some
what-
mileage for them to suddenly, oh, yes, to get that priority list right.
But you can save yourself a lot of driving if you ask a lot of good questions, like really find out what they want. And when you talk to them about the numbers, you need to find out everything about the money. Where it's coming from, where the down payment's at. I want proof. I need to know everything about the money. I need to know everything about your plan in life with your money, okay? Okay, here's my third question. See, I'm gonna save myself a lot of time with this question. So do you wanna look at homes that don't fit your criteria? Why would anybody wanna do that? Well, the only reason I ask that question is because I meet realtors all the time that are showing people homes that don't meet their criteria. Have you met any of them, Bob?
Mm-hmm.
Have you done it yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay! Well, I just need to know. Do you guys want to look at homes that don't fit your criteria? Really what I'm doing is I'm trying to find out if they know what the criteria is. But if I get them to tell me exactly what is their criteria, I gotta drill this down. What's your time frame for getting into this new home? I had some people recently, they're past clients of mine. They're really nice people. but their time frame is open-ended, because what they did was anyway, it's summertime, they have a fifth wheel trailer, they can park it anywhere, and so they're flexible. So it could take them several months before they find the right home. I phoned the agent in the office right away and handed them off. I said, I got some buyers, they're qualified, they get cash. I tried one day, I tried to see if I could do it in one day. The moment I couldn't do it in one day, I got somebody to help me. Because half of something's better than all or nothing, and I don't have the patience. I'm really good if your time frame is short. If you're coming in from Edmonton, you want a house by the weekend, I'm your guy. There's nobody that can go through a house like me. I can make it happen. But if you're flexible, and you got 3 or 4 months, I'm the wrong guy. We're all wired differently. Well, I just don't have, I'm not even praying for that kind of patience. I'm not praying for that kind of patience. I know people that have that kind of patience, I just hand it off to them. So that's a great question. Ho, 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 ho. You better ask this question. So folks, let's just say I found the home this afternoon. Who would you have to check with? Who would you have to check with? Who needs to approve this purchase, or can you make this decision all on your own? I honed this question. I honed this one in Fort St. John's, where all the macho men of the world live. I met all the macho men of the world, up in Fort St. John. They don't need to check with their wife or anybody. Their dad, they're checking anybody because they're macho. And then when I asked this question, I said, so you don't need to check with anybody, you can sign contracts by yourself. Then I find out this macho man's got a little wife at home that you better not mess with. Or he's got a dad, right? That's an ogre, a tyrant, and he.
I just heard that story a while ago about the people picked out a place they want, but the in-laws who were putting in part of the down payment wouldn't approve it. They didn't think it was right for the couple, so they wouldn't put in the down payment or half the down payment, whatever their agreement was.
I need to know this up front, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, tell me up front. I don't want to find this out after I can't run out. I just don't have the energy to run out, because I can find homes. Like what you're asking me to do is a piece of cake. If I find, you tell me the criteria, I've had this so many times. I have people come from out of town, and I'll take them to the home that they want. Bang, right out of the gate, first home. So many times I've done this, it's unbelievable. I had this accountant one time. He's a client of Randy Dix. Randy goes away for the weekend, leaves me with this guy. And so I take him outside in the morning based on what he tells me. The first house I take him to, he goes, Ray, this doesn't even meet my criteria. I said, I'm only here because you wanted to see this house. I said, I know the house that fits your criteria. Really? I said, yeah, it's on my list. But you wanted to see all this other stuff. I said, tell me now, you want to see all this other stuff, or you want to see the house that fits your criteria? Take me to that house. I take him to that house that's selling. Good. Done, finished. Randy comes back on Monday, you know, you sold the house already, right? I said, yeah. Done, put the deal all together. What's your time frame? Who do you need to approve it? Keep going. Okay. I never show a home without asking this question. I know the rest of the people do. I don't know why you would show a home without asking this question. Would you buy this home? I drive up and I go, would you buy this home? I'm just dumber in the back of hands. Would you buy this home? We get it, we walk through the drive, you know, oh yeah. You're taping me, right, Rebecca?
Yes,
Oh.
of course I am.
Well, you know, sometimes there's some brokers that are, you know, maybe, you know, offering me, not, you know, they don't really want me to sell their home, or they don't want to pay me. They want me to sell the home without paying me. I open the door, I ask the question, would you buy this home? Right there. I keep asking this question. The moment they say no, I say, let's leave. Why do I want to show a home that somebody doesn't want to buy? And if I have skills of persuasion, they're not going to be used to help anybody that's not offering to pay me. And if you assume I have no skills, like our friend, you're on your own. But I've been honing these skills for a while, so you need to hone. Would you buy this home? Ask that question all the time. So if they say yes, they would buy the home. I need to know, I need to have permission, clear permission from them to keep on showing them other homes. Because if they happen to say, yes, I would buy this home, and I don't help them buy this home, and we keep on looking at other homes, and then when we decide to come back and buy this home, it is gone, Ray's not the bad guy. I need you to let me off the hook. Would you do me a favor? I need permission to continue in what we're doing here today, if you say yes to you buy this home. So now, you see, if you do the interview right, and you get asked this question, oftentimes, I've done it the first time, but within the first 5, let's say the first 5, you do the interview right, you find out what they want, you take them to and within the first 5 homes you hit it, and you ask this question every time, would you buy this home? You get to go second or third, or something first. They go, yeah, I'd buy this home. So you could see yourself living here? Yeah. I said, okay. I said, do you want to buy this home? Well, don't we have some other ones to look at? Yeah, we do. But now I need your permission. I need you to tell me, Ray, let's continue looking, and it's okay with us if somebody else buys it. You know what this is called? You know what this is called. Well, Tommy Hopkins, what would Tommy call this? Closing. This is called closing the sale. You are helping people by if they want to buy this home. I'm going to tell you right now, I know people in our office, I could bring testimonials from, I know Rick Arnault told me the story about that. He didn't do this. He kept on doing this. When he came back to the house they said they'd buy, it was sold. Guess who they were mad at? It's Rick's fault. Like if something goes wrong, just so you know, it's going to be your fault. So if you know something's going to go wrong and it's going to be your fault, you need to ask these questions so it's not your fault. Okay. So sometimes, you know, the selling process or the buying process, what is it for? Is it up to upsize, downsize, to cut expenses? I think I asked this question before. How soon are you looking to buy or sell? Okay. So you're buying this for yourself, for your family, or for an investment? Because sometimes people will ask me, Ray, I'd like to buy a home. Then I find out they're not really buying it for themselves. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't want to find that out afterwards. I need to find it out now. Are you buying it for yourself? As an investment? For your family member? Like sometimes people send somebody in the family to do all the work. And I might think I'm dealing with the actual buyer, and I might not be. You can't do that to me. I need to know what's going on. Because if you're not making the decision, you and I aren't running around. I need the decision maker. Unless we have a clear understanding, you know, there are exceptions. This is the exception. There are exceptions. But if there's no exceptions, I need to have a clear understanding of what's going on. I have to ask this question about every home I show. Can you see yourself living here? I ask this question from the street. Matter of fact, this is how I help people do drive-bys. I give them a list of homes they tell me they might be interested in the price range. I say, do a drive-by and just ask yourself the question, can you see yourself living in this home, on this street, in this neighborhood? So just drive the whole street. Can you see yourself living on the street, yes or no? There's some streets, like in the Clearbrook area, you drive in the neighborhood, every second home's got a semi parked in the driveway. Right?
Yeah.
Can you see yourself living in a home? Do you want your kids on a street playing where guys wake up in the morning and or they come home with semis? And some people are going to say, no, I don't want to live there. Right? Well, let's get that off the table. Just get that off the table. When I give people the drive-by sheet, I give them some questions to ask themselves. And that way I don't have to show 100 homes. You guys drive by all these neighborhoods, ask yourself, can you see yourself living in this home? The wife will help you out, make sure that she goes and she goes, nope, nope, nope. Well, I don't want to do all that. Just ask questions. Are you considering a home with a sweep revenue or without sweep revenue? Let's get this question off the table. I don't want to find out after I show them 10 homes that they really would like a home with a sweep. Or they don't want homes with sweeps. No way, here, or form. Either way. Let's find this question out. Are you aware that taking suite revenue into account can increase your total borrowing amount? Now, it used to be, the rules change all the time, so the rules change on the ability to borrow.
TD's doing 100% offset right now.
Yeah, they're always changing the rules, but the fact of the matter is you can buy more home with a suite than without a suite. They may not know how that works. If I explain how that works, chances are my value has gone up. If I know how to explain this, my value goes up. I want my value to go up. So like, in other words, you want to learn how suite revenue can increase your retirement savings by hundreds of thousands of interest? Would that interest you? Can you crunch all those numbers? I know Kurt can. I doubt that anybody else in the room can. See? So, every Saturday morning in this office, we have a training session. You should come. We have a training session here. And we show people how to really make money work. And this is one of the things we do.
On a Saturday?
Every Saturday morning. Did we have this Saturday?
Not this Saturday.
Not this Saturday, but typically every Saturday morning, we have a training session where we crunch a lot of numbers
Okay.
here. 9 to noon. We have three different sessions. So just helping people understand how revenue works. And if you had suites, or if you don't know how this works, it takes a little bit of learning to know how this works. Here's the revenue for the suite, here's the expenses for the suite. I mean, it's a whole thing. You need to learn how to do that. See, most people don't know that you can deduct the interest on your mortgage against your suite. Most people don't know you can deduct, the typical suite is about 25% of the home, like the space, typical. So, typical suite's 25% of the home. So now, 25% of your mortgage is tax deductible. 25% of your property taxes are tax deductible. 25% of your utilities are tax deductible. 25% of all your maintenance items in the home, tax deductible. See, now the average person does not get a tax deduction on their property taxes or the interest on their mortgage, do they?
No.
So if you show this to people, you can become a real hero. I did this for years in my early days of real estate. I help people, and so the simplest investment you can have in real estate is a home and a suite. That's the simplest. It's like a duplex. But if you show people how it works, you're a hero. Here's a question. Just by asking this question, you elevate your whole game. Would your investment property be bought for capital appreciation, pension income, or both? Because nobody's planning for the future, typically. We know that 8% of Canadians, 8 or 9% of Canadians plan for the future, the rest of them are not planning for the future. So I'm a future planner. Okay, so would a home in this price range increase your current spending or cramp your lifestyle? That's a good question. Okay, now, this is a great question if you know where I'm going with this question. So, if I know how much they earn, if I know how much their debt is, and if I know how to crunch all the numbers properly, I can actually sell people more home than they think they can own. And so I ask this question, I say, if you could own this home on your current budget, would that interest you? So all things being equal, Bob, you've seen us do this, right? Have you seen me, you've seen me do this, where I've taken somebody who's living in a $500,000 home and I sell them a $600,000 home and I haven't increased their monthly payments. You not seeing me do that? Or you
It's a suite, or?
Well, no, by restructuring their mortgage, restructuring their debt, all of their debt. Turning their high interest debt into low interest debt. Turning their semi-annually compound interest into simple interest debt. All of a sudden I free up payments that are going to the bank in interest.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, you've seen that. So when you know how to do it, when you get good at knowing how to do that with people, you can, if you could show people how to own a home that they don't currently own for more money than what they're living in, and keep their monthly payments the same, this is a huge advantage. Like, it's an unreal advantage to have. Yeah, so it leads to this question, but if you could get a more expensive home for the same budget, would that be something you'd want to like to explore? I'm never gonna get a no on that answer, on that question. If I could show you a way how to crunch numbers and own your home, own a bigger home, a nicer home, more expensive home than the one you live in, if I could show you how to do that, would that help you? So we do a whole seminar on that. But just so you know, but if you get good at asking this question, you don't have to have the answer. You just have to ask, you don't have to have the answer. You just ask this question to everybody, and if somebody wants to know that, like, here's what I do once a month. Once a month, I answer this question in a seminar, at least once a month, right? Right, Kurt? Right here in this room. We have a buyer seminar here and in Surrey, every month. In the evenings, we have a buyer seminar. So you go around and ask that question, you find a bunch of people that like to own a home that's worth more than the one they're living in, and keep their monthly payments the same, bring them out to the seminar.
So does everybody bring their buyers?
People bring their buyers, first of all, come yourself.
I'd love to come, yeah.
Yeah, come yourself.
So on the meetup.
Sometimes we don't have it on the meetup, sometimes we do. But I've done it in the meetup, Have you joined our Surrey meetup as well?
I'm in this one, but I don't know about the Surrey one.
Yeah, join the Surrey one. It's close-
That'd be
it's
interesting to
close.
see how that's done.
Yeah, well, there you go, we'll make sure Rebecca knows that. Say, Rebecca, I wanna be in that next session. She'll get you into that session. Let's keep going through the questions. Yeah. Find out how many mortgages these people have in place. Find out what kind of interest they're paying, simple or compound interest. Nobody's asking them this question. Because guess what? There's very few people that know the difference between simple and compound interest. So I know nobody's gonna ask them this question. Actually, all you gotta do is ask this question. Does your mortgage have a term? Right? Then you're paying compound interest, you could be paying simple interest. It's possible. Banks love you. The banks love guys that don't know, that don't ask these questions.
Can I ask you, I didn't get, like, what's the difference in simple?
The difference between simple and compound interest? Well, let me give you an illustration. You've had a mortgage? You've had a mortgage?
Now, yeah.
Yeah, but you've had a mortgage, right?
No, I don't have it before.
But you've never had a mortgage before?
No.
Okay. So other people in the room will tell you that the typical family that has a mortgage, let's say their mortgage payment's, say $1,200 a month. Because $1,200 a month will service about $250,000 mortgage, right? So if you got a $1,200 monthly mortgage payment, that means annually you would have paid about $14,400 to the bank. And if the mortgage was about $250,000, okay, when the bank sends you your statement at the end of the year, you're gonna be lucky if you paid off $1,000 in principal. Am I right, Bob? Am I right?
Mhm.
You'd be lucky if you paid off $1,000 in principal. Now, if you took $1,000, if you took $1,000 and divided it by, if you took 13,000, I said 14,400 was your payment, and 13,400 was your interest. So if you took 13,400 as your interest and your principal was 250,000, how much interest did you pay? What was your rate of interest? The rate that you come up with is not the rate the bank quoted you. That's right. The bank will have sold you on the interest rate. What the bank is not going to tell you is that the interest rate in that mortgage is a semi-annually compounded mortgage, which means you pay most of the interest up front for the total mortgage over the total time that you have it. If you get good at explaining that to people, which is going to take a little bit of time to do that, you're not going to get good at this overnight. You get good at explaining that to people, nobody knows that. You know, literally, nobody knows that. And all of a sudden they go, well, how come the bank didn't tell me that? Because the banks love to compound, to make you pay interest on interest. Simple interest, whatever the percentage is. Like if I lent you $10,000 and I charge you 10%, that means you owe me $1,000 for the whole year. So you don't need a calculator to do simple interest. But to do compound interest, you have to have a calculator. It's too complicated. And that's how you can snow people. That's how they've snowed people for years. So are you paying simple or compound interest in your mortgage? You don't have to know the answer, you just have to ask the question.
Most of us is compound.
Oh, for sure, because nobody's explained how money works to you.
But simple, isn't that a line of credit?
First of all, simple interest is understanding. Simple is simple. It's been around for thousands of years. That's the only.
Yeah, I thought it was, I didn't think you could get anything else than other than.
Well, you
compound
can.
interest.
You can. But I can. I'll help you if you want. They're taking advantage of you. You just have to ask that
All
question.
these years?
Yeah.
No wonder I'm poor.
Yes. Are you in a variable or fixed rate mortgage? Are you in a variable or fixed rate mortgage? So, you know, people should know these things. Because the reason you should know these things is because it's gonna affect how much money is left over. If they're in a certain kind of mortgage, it's the wrong kind of mortgage, and they have to pay it out, there's gonna be a penalty. There's interest differentials on the penalty, there's payout penalties, there's just straight out penalties, there's interest differential penalties. And that's usually when I get to the point where I ask them, I said, do you guys know what a FIN number is? You know what your financial independence number is? And they don't. And when I explain to them what their financial independence number is, but I'll give it to you, but can I give it to you just in 2 seconds? The real short version of your financial independence number. See, most people don't know their financial independence number because let's just say their financial independence number is 60,000. For most people in Canada, that is their financial independence number. For most people in Canada, if I give them $60,000 a year, wouldn't you say? If all the people in Maple Ridge, if I give you $60,000 a year, how many people are going to work? If I just say, look, I'm giving you a check for $5,000 a month, every month for the rest of your life, how many people are going to work?
Not too many, it wouldn't be.
It'll cut the traffic down, wouldn't it, on the bridge?
Yeah.
Yes.
It'll really cut the traffic down. So I know that $60,000 a year is the financial independence number for a lot of people. But here's the problem. Nobody knows what their financial independence number is because they're thinking that the financial independence number is somewhere out in the future, like about 25 years. So this guy's 40 years old today. He's getting tired of driving back and forth across, you know, where he's going. And that's why he drives that bridge, is to make the $60,000. But he's thinking that one day I'm gonna be financially free somehow, and I'll be 65 here, you know, 25 years later. The problem is, his mind cannot figure out what that number is. But that's understandable, because the problem is we have something called inflation. And the inflation is about 3%. So inflation will destroy the buying power of 60,000. Right, Kurt? And 25 years from now, he probably needs a number like about 120,000.
125.
125?
Yep.
Kurt knows how to do it, see, he knows how to do it. If you know how to do this, just this one thing, you will blow through so many interviews and close so many deals, unbelievable. Just unbelievable. You've seen me do it before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So most people don't know that, so you quickly explain that to them, and now you go, that's how much money you're gonna need. And so what you need to do now, folks, is let me show you the bag of money that you need to have that pays you $125,000 then, or $60,000 a day. But we need time to grow whatever you have to that. And now the calculator will calculate that for you, but really when I get to that point, I say to them, you know what you need? You need at least 1.5 million. What's your plan to get 1.5 million 25 years from now, that you could live off the interest? You know what the plan is? They don't have one. So what I do, folks, is I work with people and I help them prepare for the future by acquiring the right pieces of real estate that will eventually get paid for. They are not working with another realtor who's trying to do that for them. All the other realtors they're working with are just trying to sell them something and see you later. Am I right? So that's why I asked that question. And that question alone is, that could be an hour-long meeting. You gotta learn how to ask that question. So has anyone ever sat down with you and calculated your FIN number? No. So first I do a general, and then I sit down with them and I do theirs, so I know what it is. So is your current savings program on target to give you the right, to achieve the right amount of money that you require to be to finance your retirement? And the answer is usually no, but I ask that question. What else do I ask him? When you get to retirement, is your standard of living going to increase or decrease? Stay the same. Never thought about it. So, if I can show you how to pay less interest to the bank and the credit card companies, would that interest you? So now's when I find out. So now I really dig it in. I say, Bob, you guys have credit cards? Oh, okay. Do you have boats, Bob? Oh, okay. Skidoos, Sears accounts. See, now I get all the information. Now I do a debt analysis, and I find out if I know what their total debt ratio is. You see, the moment I know what people's monthly payments are, I know what they can afford. See, the bank's only gonna lend you to buy a home, 30%. Did I say that right? Yeah, 30%, roughly.
I think it's 44% of your equity.
Well, total debt, but like just for your house, for your living expenses, it's safe to say, if you've got, let's just say the guy's got 3,000 in income. Basically, he's got about 1,000 in mortgage payments available to him. But then if I find out that he's got $1,000 or $1,500 or who knows what with everything else, we got problems. I need to know these problems up. You know what? Tell me these problems in the coffee shop. Not after I've driven you around to look at a whole bunch of houses. Matter of fact, I'm gonna trade you. You tell me your situation, I'll see what we can do on paper for you, and then we're gonna go look. There's no point me going to look in the house and find out you can't buy it. So let's get all the money issues on the table. Because I know a lot of people that can help you. Who wants to pay less money? Who wants to pay less money to the income tax department? If you do, I can show you that. I showed you that today already. I showed you that in the suite. You know what? I had a suite in my home for many, many years. It made me, in the day, it made me $200 a month. So it made me $2,400 a year. And it created for me a tax deduction of over $1,000 every year. So I got the $2,000 income. I got $1,000 back from the tax man by having that suite in the house. So,
Mine pays me $950 a month right now.
you're what?
My suite pays me $950.
Yeah.
12 grand a year.
Yeah, prices of suites have gone up. I had suites in the day when I rented it for $200 a month. So, do you have insurance to cover your current mortgages? See, if they don't have insurance to cover their current mortgages, guess what? I have an insurance license. Or I have friends that have insurance licenses. And guess what? I don't want any of my people having something happen to them and them not be adequately covered. They could have been, for cheap. So if they say they have insurance, I find out if it's bought through a bank or a private agent. If they happen to tell me they got it from the bank, they don't have insurance. They've just been fooled. And the bank lied to them again. Banks are good at that.
But I think you have to get insured, don't you?
That's what they tell you.
Well, that covers their investment.
That's what they tell you, Susan. That's what they tell you.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying they're lying to you again. You've been lied to again.
Well, all I know is it's for their benefit, not for mine.
Yeah, but they're making you pay 2 or 3 times what it would cost to get that insurance someplace else. And then it's questionable if you got it.
But I shop around.
To other banks or what?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're shopping in the wrong place.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that'd be like, did you hear about the guy who was late one night? It was after the meeting here, we went down the road, there was a guy under the street lamp there, on his hands and knees looking for his ring. Did you hear about that, Rick?
No, I didn't.
And I walked up to him and I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm looking for my ring. He said, I dropped my ring. I said, well, where exactly? I got down there, I tried to help him too. And finally I said, where did you drop the ring at? He says, way up the street. I said, what the heck are you doing down here? He says, it's the only place where the street lamp is. There's no street lamp up the street, no point looking there in the dark, you know what I'm saying? If you're looking for insurance at a bank, you're in the wrong place. They don't have insurance in there, but you should not. No Canadian. In Alberta, the Alberta government got so mad at the banks. I don't know if they still have it, but they did for a while. They made it illegal for banks to sell insurance in Alberta. The people took them to court, tried.
Yeah.
So, anyway, keep going, we're gonna finish this. We can keep going, I don't know if we're gonna finish. Oh, I asked them about their children, do the children rent or own? Could you own a home spending the same money it's costing them rent payments with anything? Okay, for renters. See, when you get the renters, and I get all the numbers, this is all based on the question, give me all the numbers. So somebody's renting, I take their rent and I convert it into a mortgage payment. You gotta get good at that. And if I'm talking to parents, which many times you are these days, and if you're talking to kids that have parents, see, I'm gonna sell a home by hook or by crook. So if somebody's not got money, I'm going to their family. I wanna meet mom and dad. So if you're interviewing any first-time buyers, you should meet mom and dad, they might have something to help you out. Might be a bit of an inheritance. I think that's it, I don't know who you.
Sorry, Rick, could I get the last one on the previous one? Has anyone seen it? It was around about the opinion that the last one was very long. If you could go for those business.
How's that? How's that one?
Yes, please.
Good.
Was any of that helpful?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
No,
Of course,
I,
it leads to a lot of other things too.
I got a question, maybe it's obvious to everybody else.
Okay, we got a question here. Good question in the front. Yes, go ahead, my friend.
What's in it for you? Like, why are you doing this for free, training us? I mean, it's kind of obvious, but,
Really? Okay. Well, there's several things. There's several reasons. Kurt and Bob are the only two people in the room today that work in our office, right?
mhm.
So why would I want Kurt and Bob not to know everything they possibly could know to be the best agents they could? Why would I not? Right, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So why would I want Kurt and Bob to take years to figure out something that I figured out years ago? Why not help them get where they're going, right?
mhm.
Well, if I'm having a meeting for Kurt and Bob, why not open it up? Because I know that other people aren't doing this. So you find out about it, and Bob brings him to the meeting, and Susan found out about it, and she comes, right? It's not gonna hurt me for you to learn what to do.
No,
I mean, you may or may not join us. That's you see, it's a screening tool for me as well. Because some people come to the meeting and they should never be with us, they should stay where they're at. And after a while, they'll figure that out. But other people come and it's a good way for me to meet them, because they should be with us. Because they're not getting any help where they're at. But sometimes they can't, it takes them a year. It might take years. Sometimes I met a gal one time right here in the class.
You should have that.
She told me that in the company that she's with, without any help, she